Hi, I'm State Senator Michael Rodrigues, and welcome to another edition of Voices from the Hill. It is now May. Spring has sprung, and the daffodils are blooming, and the grass is getting green, and everyone's getting their lawnmowers out ready to cut the grass. And
except for Representative Schmidt. Of
yeah, well, he's got a hay.
I enjoy grass.
Yeah, hay. Hey,
so do your cows.
Yeah,
That's it.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, May 1st.
But this winter that all of us would love to forget is now in our rearview mirror, and we're looking out the windshield for spring, and it's a busy time in the legislature. So we'd like to, bring you up to date on what's been happening, and quite a bit's been happening. I'll turn it over to my House colleagues who had a very busy week, as they did a tremendous job with disposing of the FY 2016 budget, the House version of the budget. We in the Senate will be picking it up and taking care of it the middle of the month. Hopefully we will have a final resolution by July 1st, the beginning of the fiscal year. But how did you folks enjoy your budget session this year?
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Your wonderful colleagues. Well, I think as everybody knows, the governor creates a budget which he issues when in January, February?
Yep. January.
And as we in the legislature say, that really doesn't count for too much, although of course we like to know what he's thinking
It's
about.
suggestions.
Yeah, it gives us some of his thoughts, but then what we do is in the House, we have our budget session. Ways and Means gives us their thoughts 2 weeks ago, and then we have 3 or 4 days to put in our amendments. That's where we start fighting for what's really important for Fall River. And then this week, starting Monday morning, we go to battle and we do the budget.
And we lived together practically for the last several days. We stayed there in Boston, and it was nonstop. And I can't tell people enough how proud I am to be to work with our delegation, because I see other people, other legislators who've been there for years, and there's no flies on any of us. We didn't stop. Representative Faiola actually made streaks in the carpeting down there from running back and forth. But we all, of course, worked on we sponsored several bills. I know Carol's going to mention a few things, but we all co-sponsored each other's because it's all to benefit our community. Yes. In our area. So we did incredibly well, I think, in just about every aspect that you can imagine. In education, in public safety, for our elderly, there's no longer going to be a waiting list for home care. So those are some of the important things for our elders, such a great, a large population that we all have. So, and then, of course, like the vouchers, and we haven't even heard a lot about that, but we were able, and we each co-sponsored that amendment to increase the vouchers for preschool children. That's going to benefit our kids right here. And that's, of course, you all know that that's one of the big initiatives we have, is to get our children into school sooner. But it's been pretty exciting. And Representative Faiola has, and we did some great things with mental health and in the battleship. I think, Rep. Faiola?
We'll talk about that. I mean, truly for our region, we talk about a little over $38 billion budget for the state. And it sounds like a lot of money. Certainly goes all over the place: healthcare, mental health, education. We saw increases for Bristol Community College. We saw increases for early education. We saw increases for what you always hear, Chapter 70 education funds for Fall River and our districts.
Local aid.
We saw local aid increase. So it's never enough, but we did all this without raising taxes and not relying on one-time funds, and so in a large proportion. So that is considered quite unique. It's also was interesting because we knew we were under tight circumstances. You know, you'll hear us, the House and the Senate, have a little sometimes varying perspectives. For example, on the early retirement bill that a lot of you have been asking us about. By the time you watch this, there could be some resolve in that. But all of that is done to help us get to a balanced budget without raising taxes.
And just to add one
Yeah.
thing, because local aid is so important to us,
That's right.
and we all know, I actually, of course, being on the Committee for Ways and Means, there were legislators who were so upset because their communities had a reduction in local aid. We had an increase in local aid. So, you know, I was very pleased at what we were able to achieve. I'm
You
praying
should
that
all be very proud of yourself. You
the
worked out.
senator-
We watched, you know, from our side of the building in
I
the
know you
Senate.
came over to visit occasionally.
I come over to see my friends over there and to speak to my co-chair, Representative Kaufman, Chairman Kaufman. But I saw how hard you were working and how engaged you were and involved. And the people of Fall River should be very, very proud.
We
They've
want to
got a
thank
tremendous.
Speaker Pro Temp Haddad.
Pat
She,
Haddad, absolutely.
played a very important role in this
She must be
delegation.
exhausted because she presides over many of the.
She did a great
much
job.
of the session.
Keeping
yes.
us under
It's
control.
not easy. It's not easy.
If I could talk about a couple of local things, as Representative said, we all pick things that we want to sponsor or create amendments on, but we made a pact as a delegation and to make sure we co-sponsored each other's amendments, and that was just really something to show our colleagues throughout the state that we are unified, because that really goes a long way when our voices join together. One of the amendments that I was able to sponsor and supported by my House colleagues, and I know will go over to the Senate with some support from our Senator Rodrick. We have the 50th anniversary of the battleship arriving here in Fall River, and that is a huge tourist and economic development tool in our community. And so through that amendment, I was able to secure $75,000 for their efforts this summer. Now, keep in mind, you know, you don't get a lot of specific earmark funds for a region, especially in a tight budget when we've tried to cover all the critical vital services. But Chairman Dempsey was very cognizant that our region deserves some special attention, just like New Bedford had the Morgan last summer, and that was a huge event. So we were able to put in $75,000 for that. It's going over to the Senate. And then one other piece I just wanted to briefly touch upon is mental health services, and I say it to our colleagues again, supported my amendment, which was to retain emergency mental health services. I never knew a lot about the emergency mental health services prior to becoming a state rep, but I certainly got up to speed by the advocates, the employees, and the families of those who are most severely affected by very serious mental illness. Corrigan Mental Health, if you've never needed it, you drive by it, you don't even pay attention. If you've needed it, like the 600 people every week that access our emergency services in the southeastern part of Massachusetts, you know how important it is. We fought for it. We wanted to add in money that the governor took out, but you know, being a tight budget, there wasn't enough millions to add in. However, the chairman, through much deliberation, it was quite a fascinating process, was able to safeguard those services with language, and you know, that provides for those services not to be changed at all, no matter what they do. So we have more fighting to do on that. The Senate's going to get it, and we're looking forward to Senator Rodrick maintaining and perhaps increasing that.
Carol, you went to the mat on that. I think Representative Sylvia and I, who were in the room with you when you were battling.
You almost brought us to tears.
Well, I
did.
I did. My colleagues
did.
throughout the state were a little astonished because when you usually go in and, Mr. Chairman, give me this, Mr. Chairman, can I have that? I kind of stopped everything for about 15 minutes.
Well, we've been fighting.
And we
with
have,
the
for
mental
the
health
last
issue
month, for the last
over
month.
a month, and it's a serious issue for us here in the South Coast, and especially in Fall River. But you did an excellent
you.
job in your
Thank you,
presentation in that little room that we have to make those presentations. 348.
Yes, 348.
It's
Yes.
quite
That's the room where we gather in smaller groups to fight for our
and that's-
individual amendments.
And that's not an earmark. You know, Representative Fiola mentioned earmarks, and earmark is when you do something for one little part of the community. This isn't an earmark. This is for the South Coast, the entire region, just as even the 75,000 to the battleship. Not an earmark. That's going to benefit the entire region for tourism, and this is something that we're all going to benefit from in our community. So, again, I'm so excited and thrilled. Looking forward to this budget heading to the Senate and some of the good things and possibilities that can happen there.
Yeah,
you know,
great.
one of the arguments that I love the debate on the floor, and I get so excited about that. We didn't have a lot because there wasn't a lot of opposition. Governor Baker's doing a wonderful job. You know, even the GOP, we expect always a fight. There was a little fight here and there, but and I really enjoyed
Budget
the
passed
fight.
unanimously.
Unanimous budget passing.
Unanimous, every single Republican and Democrat voted for our budget.
We're going to have a little fight coming up. We had some debate on the floor with the film tax
Yeah.
credit, and that's something Chairman, who's the Senate Chair, Rodrick. I sit on that Revenue Committee as well, so we've already been talking about the film tax
We're going to
credit.
keep you busy on the Revenue Committee because
it's
Chairman
very-
Kaufman and I have our hearings already all lined up beginning
very
next
interesting.
Tuesday.
I didn't
Beginning
think it was
next
going to hit the
Tuesday.
floor, but our colleague from Boston, the gentleman from Boston, Scotia, went at that, if you remember.
Yeah.
Wanting to do away with it right then. Of course, Chairman Kaufman got up and requested that we vote to keep it in the budget so that we can hear it in committee and let it go through this hearing process. But you know, this is a perfect example with $7.9 million. You know, that could be saved by eliminating this film tax to benefit a few communities. You know, there's a few communities.
Well, it's 81 million.
81 million.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
81 million.
So,
Yeah.
79. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of
Everything's a
money.
compromise.
Representative, can I just pick up on something that you mentioned, and that is the fact that the budget was passed unanimously.
Yes.
With Governor Baker, there is a real spirit of working together.
Oh, yeah.
There always has been. Massachusetts is not the political mess that we see down in Washington. And in Massachusetts, we have a long tradition of the two parties working together. But don't you feel that this term, there just is a real feeling that we have a governor who's a pragmatic, practical guy. He just wants to get in there and fix things for the taxpayer, and it's not about politics.
Yep. You
It's
can
about
see when he walks
it's
into
about
the room.
working for the taxpayer.
And it's not just between the legislative branch and the executive branch. We in the Senate hold twice a week. We have bipartisan informational caucuses. Yesterday, both Democrat and Republican members of the Massachusetts State Senate spent 3 hours with experts on the Olympics talking about the Olympics. And we have Secretary Pollock coming next Wednesday to talk to us about the MBTA report. So we meet regularly, bipartisanly in caucus. We've had the State Ethics Commission in. We've had a number. We've had for the early retirement bill. We spent 3 hours with Secretary Lepori from A&F, going over the details on that and really working out bipartisan. These are caucuses that are not a Democratic caucus,
Right.
but a bipartisan informational caucus session, so that we can have the information that we need to make informed and educated decisions. And you know, in our side, the minority leader, Senator Bruce Tarr, who you know very well, who's one of the greatest orators that I've ever heard, whether it's in the House or Senate. I mean, when he takes the floor, he's tremendous.
People listen.
People listen because he's very
People on
articulate.
both sides of the aisle.
Absolutely. So it's not a mess. Just to reinforce what you're saying, that we don't always agree, but when we disagree respectfully, and we disagree with a common goal of getting something done to improve the lives of the people of the Commonwealth. We don't disagree to be disagreeable or disagree to stop something because Representative Schmidt, who's a Democrat, proposed it, and Senator Tarr, who's a Republican, wants to stop it only because it was proposed by a Democrat. That absolutely does not happen at all
It doesn't.
in Massachusetts State Legislature.
Just to add to that, I have never, and I noticed it now. I mean, this is my third budget, but for some reason, and I'm sure it's the spirit that Governor Baker brings, and we noticed that when he walks into our chamber. You know, he's eager to speak to each of us, and but every secretary is accessible to us. Look, we talked to Secretary Ashe at least 3 times this week.
We met with them this, we met with them
Fishery
2
and
days
Games.
ago.
Look, we were talking to Peterson. We were talking to lots of folks. So the accessibility of the Secretariat, the commissioners, for some reason, they've making themselves so available to us. So right there to discuss issues that are important to us in this community, I love that. I love that.
Well, I think Governor Baker brings to the table experience in the private sector where you realize the biggest cause of problems is communication, is lack of communication, lack of information being transferred. And if there's an open line of communication where information is sent back and forth, where when you ask a question, you get a real answer, that means a lot, and that's how you get things done.
You know, you mentioned, Governor Baker and our relationship. You're absolutely right. He's so relaxed and comfortable with everyone. He doesn't tend to just hang out with the Republicans. He is truly the governor for all of us. And you mentioned his experience on the private sector.
Baker Love Fest over here.
Well, it is. Well, if you look,
He's earned it.
right up until this point, we'll say.
We might feel differently in a couple of weeks.
Well, you know, I'm sure
you
we're
have-
going to have I disagree with the early retirement bill, his
Right.
proposal. We're going to have disagreements.
Yeah.
But it's not disagreement, it's not personal. It's disagreements over assumptions, it's disagreements over, over policy. That's fine. That's what a democracy is all about. You know, you can't just rubber stamp everything and hold hands and sing Kumbaya. You want open discourse and debate. That's what our founding fathers created by having a bicameral legislature, by having different branches, the executive branch.
That's
and
why I love the
legislative
debate.
branch.
I love the debate on the floor because it's so, you know, I say
Sometimes
that,
you got to take a chill pill out.
I know.
I'm telling
You know
you,
what?
get so
You know what
excited.
I
Isn't
say
it fun? Here we go.
every day,
This guy.
and they,
It's getting
all
warmed up
my
now.
colleagues have heard me say this.
Yeah.
Every day I'm amazed at how much I learn.
We do.
Yeah.
We learn every single day, and I don't know, humility. Oh, I sit there in awe sometimes. Saying, Jesus, I didn't know that. I didn't know, but I didn't know. I say that every 20 minutes sometimes.
Yeah.
It's
to sit
amazing.
sometimes to sit. Often when we finished in 348. Having been now on Ways and Means, I had a few opportunities to go down to that smaller meeting down in the chairman's office. That was always a great thing to do, because then you get to put in another couple of seconds in, and that was very helpful to us. So
You're absolutely right, and what we learned from our colleagues, some who've been there for 30 years, some have been there for 9, 10 years, and some are newer, like myself.
Senator Roderick.
Senator Roderick is a fountain of incredible knowledge. So when we have these discussions,
I learn
everybody
something new
brings
every day.
something to the table.
I love it.
It was funny, after the 348 on mental health, the chairman called myself and Speaker Pro Tem Haddad and Rep. Cabral, because they were very supportive as well, to his office. And 3 of his probably 25 staff members were there. And it's interesting. You say, well, how do you reps, when you came from a business background or a law background or a farming background, business, whatever, have all the answers? Well, what's fascinating is we don't. We learn from the incredible staffs that each of the committees have, that the
analysts.
chairman has. They have budget analysts and policy analysts, and it's so amazing to hear them share with us some of the more detailed background information, which then informs us to make our decisions.
And haven't you found how remarkable it is that our colleagues are willing to share with us and
Excellent.
teach us? You find up at the State House that you have a question, you just go next door, and somebody will
Absolutely.
help
I
you
always
out.
say that when even with a constituent question, if we can answer the question inside our building, inside the State House, if it's a mental health question, if it's a registry question, if it's an environmental question, you go to the chairman of the Committee on Environmental Issues, and that's where the expertise lies, and they're ready, willing, and able, and wanting to share with you
That's right.
and help you. And as a new chairman now, you have a lot of responsibilities because you are the internal expert on everything environment, natural resources, and agriculture in the House of Representatives. So your colleagues, I'm sure, are coming to you constantly because you are the resident expert. Or you will be.
Well, I'll certainly do my
He's
best.
getting there. He's
getting
I'll
there.
certainly do my best
Catching up
to
very quick.
live up to that.
Yep.
But if I may just, since we're on the subject of the committee, just make a few comments about the budget.
Yes, please.
So far as the environment and agriculture goes, I think my colleagues really backed me up, and we gave ourselves a good budget. We got a nice increase for the Department of Agriculture, and that's going to help us bring more locally raised, healthy foods to Fall River. We got a nice increase for Department of Parks and Recreation, and that's going to help us in Westport, at Horseneck Beach, in Freetown, Fall River State Forest. Fish and Game got a nice increase so we can continue the work down at Cook
We're
Pond.
very close. We were just talking about that. We've already
Nice.
have we're pushing that commitment. We have that meeting this morning. We're ready to go.
So we just want to say that we really appreciate the Speaker and Ways and Means Chair Dempsey for the support. It was a tough year. Everybody knows that we went into the budget with a deficit. So there was
Huge
not a lot of money to put around, and you have to take care of local aid, you have to take care of the schools.
Healthcare,
So, healthcare. But we did a good job for the environment. That's-
Yep.
I
Well,
just-
congratulations.
wanted to say that. Well, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you for all your support.
Yep.
So once it goes to Senate, just as a little follow-up on how the process will work, in a couple of weeks, when the Senate debates it and comes up with their budget, anything that is different from the House budget, any item, line item, word, amendment, anything that's different at all,
Punctuation mark.
punctuation mark, anything, calls for what's called a conference committee. And so the Senate President and the Speaker will pick people from both houses, branches. They'll get together and they'll iron out those differences. And what's fascinating is we put all our faith in them to bring it home. And once they put the conference committee together and do all their work, they'll present both branches with the budget, and we vote yes or no. And that's when we will deliver our budget
To the governor.
and to the governor, and then he will look at it and hopefully not line item veto anything.
Yep.
There could be some items in there that he doesn't like that we put in, because remember, he gave the first budget. But maybe based on our relationship and the fact that we did adopt quite a few of his recommendations in our budget, and certainly the Senate will do some of that as well, that I think we'll have that word, that compromise word, that we don't all get everything we want, but we do deliver something that provides great services to our constituents.
Yeah, well, you did a tremendous job, so I look forward to digging into it in a couple of weeks over in the
We'll be
Senate.
watching you,
Yeah.
Senator.
Come on over, you can join us.
Any help you need in any of our
Join us.
stuff, we'll be glad to.
Very good. I know where I can get the information I need.
And not to change it too far,
Yeah,
but I want
yeah.
to congratulate, because we're losing some time. We're going to be ending soon.
Yeah.
I don't know where this time goes, but congratulations with all the work you did in the synagogue in Portugal.
Well, you were
I
all
was
there.
never so moved
Proud.
and proud to be there
Well-
with my colleagues to be present.
Well, thank you. There were a lot of people from Fall River that 25 years ago saw this abandoned synagogue. It's a long history of the Jews in Portugal, post-Inquisition in the late 18th century. Came back to Portugal through the Azores. They found a safe haven there. People were acceptant and tolerant of a different religion. They created a number of synagogues. Many of us Portuguese have very deep Jewish roots, and for a $30 genetic test now, you know just what percentage you are. But to be there with all of you, and I know you were busy haying and getting your farm ready, but you were there.
Well, I
you were
was
there.
disappointed I wasn't with you, although I did see it a year and a half ago before the renovations.
Well, we had 80 people from Fall River, both Portuguese and Jews and interested individuals.
That was
We
the
had
beauty of it, to
Yeah.
have the Azorian people and the Jewish people come together to celebrate this magnificent achievement
Yeah.
over, like you said, 25 years coming, and you really brought it home,
And to
Senator.
go to services on Friday night, Shabbat services in the temple, not understanding a word they said because it was in Hebrew and I'm a good Catholic boy, but just to sit in a temple that have not had prayers said in it for over 60 years, to hear their prayers said,
was quite the thing.
very, very powerful, very, very moving. And we don't have to, we all know how important the Azores is here to Fall River. I mean, probably 50% of our population traces their roots. Many immigrants here, many have dual citizenship here in Fall River with Portugal and with the Azores. And to see, to have the U.S. ambassador to Portugal, our friend Bob Sherman there, to have the Israeli ambassador to Portugal, Zipporah Ramon, to have counts, to have the president, to have
was quite something.
front page articles in the Israeli Times in Israel. So we really got international press. And Fall River joined the Azores together, so it was tremendous.
Could I just also mention to our viewers that so many of you are from the Azores, and since I've been back, they mentioned that some haven't been back in so many years. I was fortunate, this is my second trip. I went in 1998, and again, just last week. But if you haven't been, whether you're Azorean, whether you're Polish or German or French, it doesn't matter.
Beautiful trip.
This island in Europe, a 4-plus-hour plane ride from Boston is
Paradise.
absolutely
It is a paradise.
magnificent. Please, if you're looking at a vacation destination at some point,
And it's affordable.
it
Yes,
was
it is.
extremely, our dollar is very strong against the euro there. The prices were crazy.
It can be a
was
little
beautiful.
expensive in the summer because of
Right.
SATA. And the Azorians know what I'm talking about with the
Yeah.
airline. But
What, did they put their prices up?
Oh, yeah.
oh yeah, that's a
Flights are just crazy right now.
that's a
for
sore spot
August.
with the
So
Azorian
August,
community.
go
but
competition soon.
There's going to be it's opening up for competition. We saw the Ryanair planes there. We saw the EasyJet planes coming in from
gonna be a
Europe.
good
That's going to open up. But I heard from folks that are not Azorean or Portuguese that were on that trip that's just said, "Oh my God!"
Never
I've
imagined.
always heard how beautiful it was, but until I saw it with my own eyes, I could not believe how lush and green, how friendly the people are, how great the food is, the temperature, the climate. It was just beautiful. So,
And you really
thank you.
understand the people of our region so much better from where they came from.
And everybody knows Fall River over there. Our bus driver.
Yeah.
Yeah. First thing he says to me, I've got 14 cousins in Fall River. Yeah, and you can't go anywhere. They don't know. And they know the streets. They know Hope Street and Columbia
Oh, yeah,
Street.
yeah.
And,
They tell you which street their relative lives on.
yeah,
It
absolutely.
was great, so thank you so,
Yeah,
so
well,
much for
thank
that.
you all. Thank you all for
was an
coming.
honor.
So we have a lot of work ahead of us. The session is, the budget now will be just about done by the end of this month of May. We have our committee hearings. We have all the legislation, over 7,000 bills that have been filed, are beginning to work their way through the committee process, and it's a very deliberative process. Every single bill gets a public hearing. In my committee, our committee, Representative Sylvia is on the Revenue Committee with me. We have over 500 bills to hear. We begin next Tuesday.
Yes.
Hearing a number of bills, and we are going to meet just about every Tuesday until they're done. And there's some big issues. We're dealing with revenue. We're dealing with, revenue is the politically correct way to say taxes. It's taxation. And is our tax system fair and equitable? Can it be made more progressive and more fair and equitable?
What can we save?
And what can we save? How can we do things differently? There are ways of, without increasing taxes, but by shifting the tax burden, I think we can make our tax system more fair and equitable. And give you a hint, you might see some of that in the budget. So,
We expect something.
yeah, you
We've been
expect
talking.
something.
We don't want to say anything, but we expect something, a little unusual.
Well, I thank you. It is time, unfortunately, for us to end this session. To all of you, enjoy this spring weather. God bless all of you. Thank you all
Thank you.
very much.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And
Enjoy
look
it.
forward to seeing everybody at the Memorial Day services
Oh,
at the end of the month.
Absolutely, absolutely.
An
Thank you.
opportunity to remember.
Thank you all.
Wonderful.
Great.
Yep.